Jesus Conde. Digital Painting Tutorials.
Hey guys, this is Jesus Conde and today we're going to be painting sand. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start by making a small sketch. It's the first thing we need to do our material study. So notice that in the right I got my reference, which is something I found on internet. The interesting part of that the reference is it had difference from the top to the bottom. It's in the top is like less messy than in the bottom. The bottom is kind of like all these holes and stuff like in the sand that you find on the beach, and in the middle have these little it could be kind of like plants, or yeah, it's kind of a plants or something. But it's a little bit dirt, and at the top there's nothing like that. It's more clean in terms of shape. There's not so many holes and stuff like that. So notice that I'm doing two sketch. The first one I didn't like it because it was too flat. It's just the top and bottom part. And now I'm doing one that is kind of rotated to one side. That I thought it could look more interesting. So I'm not looking to do a really detailed line art in this stage. So right now I'm just trying to figure out what shapes could I do to make it look interesting but not too much time consuming. So because it's a sketch, it's nothing like a line art. Notice that I'm also doing a little bit of the shadows. There are the little plants in there, kind of dirt. Okay, so this is going to be my real let's call it liner, but it's not. It's gonna be like my sketch, my guide. So I wanted to go back to the old format where I do copy the version every. I do something and at some point I copy it, and you can see what I had before, all the changes and stuff like that. So what I figured out was I'm going to do this every 10 minutes in the video. This video is speed up 200%, so it's the double speed, and I'm going to be copying what I did every 10 minutes, so you can see how it changes every 10 minutes. So right there, this is my first stage, the sketch part. Trying to fix a little. Those are totally normal brushes. There's nothing fancy in terms of brush here. I was looking for the timer in there. 10 minutes, there it is. And here is my reference. Normally I do this in two screens, so right there you can if you got to screen it will look too weird in YouTube. So right there I just have everything in just one screen, and it's a bit weird because when you record there's a bit of lagging on the webcam, so it doesn't work like perfect like when you work normally. Right there I'm trying to find the color, but I thought that you would like to see how to make this color instead of just picking it. So I decided to go to pick some base colors that were having opacity in there, so I have to change that. Okay, here we go. So I have white, red, black and yellow. So I start with the yellow and 50% of the red. Then I take that with the eyedropper and keep mixing. Then I put a little bit of black in there, so you see how it start turning to sand color. This is a good exercise that you start making these colors, mixing them. You can mix them by using a slow percentage of the color with the numbers, or you can do it with the pen pressure. So notice that I did gray in there and then put some gray in the sand. It's not the exact same color. I had some mistakes, but notice that I'm not going back. I'm not going from this point. I'm not using Control Z. I had my ground color, but then I didn't change. I just painted on top. So right there, I'm just using a dark color. I take the one I had and put it some black. Then I put it some black and a little bit of red, because you should never use just black on the shadows. You should have a little bit of other color. If it's not going to be, it's going to look weird. So right now my sand is looking kind of reddish, but then I changed that using the with the advantage of working in digital. I just changed that a little bit with this hue and saturation options on the program. So right there, I'm just starting to paint from bright to dark, from the left to the right, from the left top to the right bottom. And I did that new color with a little bit more of gray and a little bit more of black. So this is a good base to start from. We're working on digital, so we have the dodge tool that allows you to burn the brights. You have to be careful with the burn tool, because with the dodge tool, because you have to set to highlights when you use it. That is in the top of in the bar up there in the options. You're gonna have like a little bar and you put highlights. The default it comes in midtones. So you select the dodge tool with the letter O and you put it to highlights on the top of the screen. So right there, I'm just trying to make these little bumps. All the bumps are aiming to the top left with the brights, and everything else is kind of the same. There I took the brightest color and put a little bit of yellow, because the sand color that I have on the reference is more like yellow and white. So well, there I'm just trying to just paint, and there is a point that I start using the smudge tool. Right there, I took advantage that I had the lines of the sketch. I took them as a color and then painted, and that gave me a more darker color. Okay, so right there I had that. So I thought, okay, like in the old tutorials, how can I make this better? You only have to be asking that to yourself. Okay, this is our second step on this. How can I make this better? What is missing here? I copied my palette of colors. All that is in the same layer. And I needed some blue because I'm going to do green. Green is blue and yellow, and I put a yellow at 50%, some black on it, more black. And I started to do the little plants like that. At some point, I noticed that they are more darker. They're even more black. There it is. I put some black in there. Now they look a little bit more alike the reference. So just feel free about it. Don't think too much about what you're doing. Look, right there I took the brightest color and put some white because I needed more. I needed the sand on the bright spots of the sand are more too white because they have these little like, I don't know how to call it, particles that are just white, and you cannot see that from the distance, but if you get closer you can see them. And what happens is that you have this really bright and white looking, pale looking sand where the light hits. So I needed that brightness in there. Okay, then here I did the opposite. I put some black and then some green that I had. Sorry. And I'm doing these little points and holes everywhere with this black. I realized there that my my stuff looks really different from the reference, so I changed the hue and saturation options. You can find that in the image up there in the menu bar. Image adjustments and hue and saturation. So right there are these a little white lines, and okay, here I'm just doing some shadows of, there's, I don't know, there's some kind of a shoe mark on the sand there, and I'm just trying to replicate that. It's really random. This reference is really random, so that's what we want to achieve. Right there I'm just using the Smudge Tool and the eraser. Smudge Tool here, and then the eraser to clean the edge. And everything else is just taking with the eyedropper. Just taking with the eyedropper everything and painting. I'm not sure how to explain I'm doing this. I'm just doing little lines and points everywhere, but I do little rests with my hand. I needed more intensity of these points at the edge because of the perspective. They have to be more together. In the center they shouldn't be too much, but in the edge there should be more of them because of the perspective. You have to be able to see more and more as you get towards the edge because of the perspective. That's really important. It's a sphere. You have to feel like it's rounding. Okay, so I was saying this is just like doing random points and lines everywhere, taking little reds with your wrist, with your hand. Is kind of hard to explain, but it's really easy to do if you try it. So the really important thing is that you do it quick, because if you don't do it so quick, it's going to look really like if you were thinking about it, and you shouldn't be thinking too much. I said it was hard to explain. Okay, so here I'm doing this little plants in there and put it some shadow, because in the reference, I don't know if you can see it, but there at the left, kind of like touching the Photoshop screen, there is a little thing in there casting a shadow, and I really like that effect. So now my 10 minutes went up, and I'm copying to make a new version of this. So thinking, how can I make this better? This is looking good already, but it can look better, definitely. So that's what we want. Here I'm just starting to add some more details, because if you can see in the reference, it's really messy. So that's what I'm doing in there. Please, guys, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and also check out the other tutorials that I'm making in my under subscription page. In the description, there is a link. It's half price until September 4. So check that out if you want to support me. Anyway, going back to this. Too much advertising already. Okay, so I'm doing a little bit more of lighting with the with some color that I took and put it a little bit more of white. And here I'm doing just, let's say, random little bumps of sand, because if you notice in the reference, I'm doing this thinking in real time. I mean, I'm doing that and I really don't have any idea of what I'm doing. I'm just trying to understand what's going on the reference, and you can see that there's no pattern. There's no pattern at all with this sand. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. Okay, here I found something important. Notice that I took with the eyedropper and then I cut it with a stroke. I cut it the transition from light to dark, and that really gave that look of sand. So this is a really important part. So there I'm like, I understand how I can do this now. It was really frustrating. I wasn't looking like that. Okay, so the important thing now, I know, if you can compare it with the left one, when the one that I had before, when you see it, is that the one on the left looks like sand, but it doesn't look like beach sand. So it's like they have this little the transition from light to dark on the bumps. It's really how can I say that? Like it's like a cut. It's not soft. It's really hard. So I noticed that in there. I always do backlights. So that's what I'm trying to achieve here. I took the brightest color and started making some kind of light from the right back of the sphere, so it doesn't look too much boring. I'm also noticed that my sphere is not really a sphere. It's more like an egg or something. Really bad shape, but I try to fix that a little bit later. So I want you to notice that the cuts on the bright. Then I do more and more of that, so you get to see how I did it again. But this is when I really understood how to make it look like sand. So that part was really important. Right there, I'm taking kind of a middle tone between the really bright and the dark of this backlight, to have like a middle lighting. Okay, so now is more about taking what I have. Look, I took the darkest shadow color and I started making little lines in there, because the thing at the top of the reference is that it has bumps, but they are like made or something like that. So they are more like shapes in the sand. There are, how can I say that, man-made with shoes and stuff like that. So it's important that you notice that is difference between the bumps on the top and the ones at the bottom. Okay, so now we're starting to look at some difference from the beginning to the end. Okay, here I'm doing little lines because there's like little sticks in the ground, and putting that little shadow that really gives the look of that is in there. If you don't put that little shadow in there, it won't look like it's in there. So just take the color of the shadow and put it. And you have to be pointing that side. I did a little bit more of yellow, so it looks more like it. And right there, I'm just starting to try to make the little dots on the sand. It's kind of difficult to do it by hand, one at a time. But here we go. And then I thought, okay, if I keep doing like this, I forgot to put the timer. But if I keep doing like this, it's gonna be like 3 hours tutorial, and you guys gonna get bored. So I decided to create, at some point I decided to create a brush to do just that. Okay, notice that I'm doing little shadows on the from the shadows, from the big shadows. Like it's not perfect on the base of these shapes, and that really gave some detail to it, so keep that in mind. And the moment I did it is the moment I realized that in the reference had some stuff like that. But I'm doing it kind of like in a pattern, so later I realize about that and do it more randomly. Okay, so yeah, well, here is just the same, but notice how the bright just cut to the dark in what I'm doing. I'm not doing a transition between the bright and the dark. Here I'm cutting again, making that transition less obvious, just dark in there, and really give this sand looking. Here I'm cutting the bright too with the shadow again. See? Here I'm cutting the dark with the bright, doing the opposite. Here I'm cutting the bright again a little bit and putting some bright later. So that's the part that I'm telling you. Here I'm doing it again. It really gives that look of sand. So it's really important that you do it like that to make sand. Here I'm trying to blend a little bit. And notice the difference between I have these two that look perfectly like sand, and the one between them doesn't look like sand at all. So that's the difference. Here I'm doing it again, just a dark cut in there. Again, here I'm doing it again. So I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say about the cuts. Here I'll do it again. See, it just go from bright to dark really quick. Doesn't have any transition. That's the sandy look. Here again. And if you compare it with the one that we had before, here I'm repairing that part with that technique, that new technique. If you compare it with the one before, okay, the one before looks a bit like sand, but it doesn't look too much like it. That's the difference. The one on the left will probably look like if the water passed on top of the sand and then go. It's more like the sand after water. Is soft transitions. And this one we have here is the dry one. We could say something like that. Really looks like that. Here I'm doing little bumps, but more randomly, cutting that the top in there really gives it more random look, and I just noticed that. I noticed that some of the reference have some darks different from sorry different from the normal shadow. Okay. Okay, so there's a point when you start doing all these details that it's more fluid. Here I'm doing something completely breaks the shapes. It's like some lines that maybe someone did with a stick or something, but they are there. And it makes it look more random and kind of realistic, even that it's still a painting. And it does looks like a painting. It doesn't look too much realistic, but it feels more like it, more real instead of digitally made. Little more points and stuff. Same here, some shadows and line breaking that shape. And while I'm doing this, I'm thinking about how I'm going to do the sand brush. Okay, so now I copy this, put it at one side. You can see all the transition from the beginning. Okay, so now I went back to doing this little spots, and I used a new brush, a really hard one. It's normal. It's not fancy at all. There's a lot of people asking what brushes I use. There's two little weird brushes that I use, but this one is just normal brushes. So then I'm just doing little points. It was really frustrating because I have to do it really quick, and it was starting to look different, one from each other. So there I'm seriously thinking about making this brush that I end up doing. So new image. The computer was kind of slow at that point. Don't know why. Maybe some RAM issues because I was working all day on other programs and stuff. 3D Max. I was doing a digital painting earlier, stuff like that. Okay, so finally open. I cut a corner and start making little points. After this, I just click edit and define brush preset, and I have my brush. But I gotta change it because if I use it from what it comes, it doesn't work at all. I have to put angle click here so it turns while I'm painting, and turn off the brush size because I kept the brush size. It was going to be when I push too much, it will be bigger, and when I push little, it was going to be really thin. I want it to be the same size all the time. But I did want to change the angle because it's not going to look like repetition. I didn't want to look like repetition at all. So then I'm just using that brush. First I'm using it in a layer with 50% because I wasn't too sure about the result that I was going to get. I want to keep it really soft. But then I went like full. I created a new layer and went full with it, 100%. See, I'm still using 50 in there. And I'm trying to focus just in the transition part. In the top from bright to dark, and then from the dark to bright at the bottom, because that's where you can really see the difference of these little points just being in there. Okay, so right there I'm using 100%, see? Just take the color with the eyedropper and just keep painting, making some. You can really notice that in the brights and the darks is where you notice these dots. So I recommend that you use it in there, in the transition from bright to dark and dark to bright. I didn't want to overuse it, and please use a new layer, because you really don't know how it's going to look at the end when you push your zoom out. So you pull out with your zoom, but you still have the other versions at one side. Any point you will just lose 10 minutes of progress. But if you do it the same way that I'm doing it. But if not, well, I recommend you use a lot of layers. I took the brush that I had in the beginning, and right now I'm doing just put some light from the side. And right now I'm just looking at all the image and trying to find where I can make it a little bit better here, or making some changes in here, stuff like that. It's not like just trying to find where I can make this image better, just by looking around. There is a spot up there in the left that I totally forgot about it. But the time was about to end for me, so I didn't too much care about that part. Okay guys, so please subscribe to this channel. I know I said it before. Please subscribe to the channel, share the video. Please follow my Facebook page if you want to keep in touch with me and to all the things that I upload on the page. I started this new page where I put all the process, all the things that I do in a painting, I put it in there. And the link is in the description. Is people share page. And you can get in there. Oh look, sorry, let's cut that information. I copied the layer and turn down the lightness, and then erase where the bright is, because I thought it needed more dark on the dark part. Sorry for repeating, but I just copied the layer, turned down the lightness of that new layer, and then erased where the light is. So that's how you can instantly get a darker shadow on your drawings. Just copy everything and erase where the light is. It gives it a little bit more of three-dimensional look at the end. So don't forget to subscribe to my other page that is paid, but you get to see everything that I do on my paintings, my own personal paintings. Is the best support you can give me, and you can see all the videos for a small amount of money at the month. It's half price right now. It's half price until September 4. So please check that out. The link is in the description. You can find it under exclusive tutorials. or exclusive content, exclusive tutorials. You just click in there and you can get subscribed. Well guys, thank you very much for your attention. I really hope you like this tutorial. Okay, so remember, how can I make this better? That should be your line. Every time you're doing something, just think, how can I make this better?